Hey guys, it's Sid. Remember me? I'm back. Today I want to talk about how my father had 6 children in the Jehovah's Witness cult. And all 6 children are now ex Jehovah's Witnesses, including me. And I just want to talk about the history of what he went through raising the 6 children and what it was like for me personally going through what I had to go through being raised in this cult. Now, today is a special day. Today, my dad would have been 90 years old. He was born February 16th, 1936. So he was 90 years old today. He would have been 90 years old. He died last year, and he's been gone for a year. And he had dementia towards the end of his life. So I got to actually go see him before he passed, and it was really good to see him and just have closure about the whole situation, because he had shunned me for 10 years previously before that. So I was able to go see him and say goodbye and just have some closure in the situation. I feel that the dementia kind of took away his memory of shunning and his memory of the cult's constraints on our relationship. You know, when I was really young, me and my father were very close, and he always used to tell me that he wanted me to be the first one of his kids to go to Bethel, or to be a pioneer, or to marry an elder. And these are the dreams that he had for me. But he never considered what were my dreams. What did I want to do with my life? That was never considered or even talked about. And anytime I would bring up what I wanted to do, they would always get some kind of doubt thrown my way. Oh, you don't want to do that. If you do that, there's not any money in that. Or he would just throw doubt my way. And no matter what it was that I wanted to do, he just wanted me to focus on serving the cult, which was really hard as a kid, because you want your parents to be encouraging. You want your parents to help you to grow towards your goals and what you want to do as a young kid, and grow up to be a healthy adult with a good career. And this is what I was craving that I never really got from my dad. Now let's just back up a little bit and talk about how he grew up. My dad was born into the religion. His grandmother was the one who would tell him Bible stories every night before he would go to bed. Now this was before the My Book of Bible Stories would come out. So she would tell him stories from the Bible that were like My Book of Bible Stories. And so I really feel that this put the cult mentality into his heart at a very young age. And because he was born to his mother out of wedlock, he didn't have a normal family. His parents were not married. His mother and father didn't actually even stay together. After he was born, she kind of abandoned him to his grandma, and she just went ahead on about her life and did other things. And he was raised by his grandmother and a grandfather who was very kind of old school, kind of cruel. He's told me a few stories about the cruel things that he would do. But he really felt that his grandmother loved him a lot, and he felt loved by his grandmother to the point where I think that's why he stayed in the cult his whole life, mostly because of her, because she put the love into his heart to serve this cult. And of course, when you're in the religion, you don't look at it as a cult. You look at it as you're doing what the Most High wants you to do. You're doing what Jehovah, God, wants you to do, right? But so I truly believe that he thought he was doing the right thing by serving this God. This religion was something that he felt was the right thing to do. But even he, as a teenager, rebelled. He even got kicked out of the house because he was rebelling. So you would think he would have understood, but in fact, that didn't really stop him from shunning us or treating us the way he did. So when he got married and had the 4 children, I'm not going to go into any details about that because I feel like that's too personal. So I'm going to be very vague about the situation, but he had 4 children. He was very active in the religion. He and his children would go out in service. His wife at the time was also very active in the religion. And then something very horrible happened that his wife actually did that caused their family to break up. And she left the family and left the children with him. It was very painful. I can't even imagine what that would feel like, to realize that your mother is abandoning you, abandoning your religion, and leaving to do other things. It had to be extremely painful for the children, for their whole family to be broken apart. And then my dad married my mom 6 months later after the divorce, which had to be very difficult for the young children of the previous marriage to accept that now their mom is being replaced. And not only replaced, but replaced with somebody who's very young. His oldest daughter was only not very far in age from my mom. So that had to be a little uncomfortable and weird, I would say, at the same time. But nevertheless, my parents loved each other and they stayed together over 50 years and were married over 50 years. So really, age didn't matter in this situation. But after they got married, they had a lot of issues. And in fact, the night that I was born, his youngest son ran away from home. And he had to go and find him while I was being born. So he actually missed my birth because his younger son had run away. And he had a lot of issues with his children. Different things were happening with them. Like I said, I'm not going to go into detail because it's very personal, but there was a lot of things that went on that were not good. And so when I came into the world, there was already still drama from his past marriage. And, you know, eventually they also had my sister. And we grew up in a very lonely environment, I would say. None of the previous brothers and sisters really ever came around. We never really saw them or knew them at all. And it's almost like, I guess they were being shunned. And I guess they wanted nothing to do with my dad or us or his new family. And I was thinking about this the other day, how you would think after having 4 children and trying to force them to be in this religion and realizing that it didn't work and realizing that you're now without your children, that he would have learned something by this, but it doesn't seem that he learned any lessons. And he continuously made the same mistakes all over again with my sister and I by trying to push us into serving Jehovah and being in this cult. And I remember as a young kid, I started rebelling against my parents not wanting to be in the cult and having thoughts about things that didn't just add up. It didn't add up to me. The logic was too strong in my mind, and I couldn't handle some of the things I was learning. Didn't make sense, especially when you read the teachings of Jesus and you start questioning, you know, why didn't Jesus ever say Jehovah's name? Why didn't Jesus ever pray to Jehovah, right? Why am I being pressured to get baptized so young when Jesus got baptized at 33? You know, things like that just logically, if you're a logical person, come up. And it's almost like my dad didn't have the strong logic there to realize what this was, that he was in a cult. He didn't realize that he was having an emotional attachment to this cult because of his grandmother. And he actually shunned all 6 of his children. And the only reason I was able to reunite with him was because he got dementia. I didn't hear from him for 10 years previously to that. And I feel really upset by this because I feel like I lost my father. I didn't have a father. He wasn't looking out for me. He wasn't calling to check on me. He wasn't protecting me. And that's what's really hard about this cult, is that it forces parents to shun their own children, even if they're not baptized. I was never baptized, so there shouldn't have been any reason why I was being shunned, but I was anyway, despite the fact that I had never been baptized. But I'm glad that towards the end of his life, I was at least able to have some kind of closure. And I got to see him one more time. And I know he didn't remember anything about the cult. He didn't remember the shunning. All he kept telling me was, "You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful." And he saw me for who I was, finally, at that moment. He saw me for the light that I had around me, the light in my heart. He saw my true essence without the fog or the covering of the cult over his eyes. So that really brought closure, even though it was very difficult to see him that way. It's really horrible what this cult does to families and how it forces you to shun your own children. How is that a loving thing to do? How would a loving God ever want you to shun your own children, especially if they haven't done anything wrong? Now, if I had committed some horrible crime or some horrible immoral act, I could understand at least that I'm being shunned because of something I did, but I had never done anything to deserve this, in my opinion. What kind of a cult forces their members to shun their own children? I'll tell you what kind of a cult that wants control. They want control over these people. They want them to not have any children around them. They want you to not have any protection. They want your parents not to have any protection. Because once your children are shunned, when they pass away, what happens? They get all their money. They can donate all their money to the cult. And so that's what I believe the agenda is here. It's to separate families from each other so that they can benefit for the money. And it's really sick and disgusting what this cult does. Anyway, I just want to end this video by saying that I love my dad very much. I forgive my dad for everything he did. And I understand why he did it. I didn't used to understand. It used to be extremely painful, but I'm starting to realize why we're here on earth, what we're doing here. And I feel connected to him now that he's on the other side. And I feel that he has been enlightened. He now knows the truth. And one day we'll be together again. Not in paradise, but in the spirit world. And that's the truth. My name is Sid. I wish you blessings and love. Thank you for watching, and take care.